Hi, Ffion. How you doing? You okay?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good.
Ready to
Yeah,
do
not too bad,
that?
thanks.
Let's pretend.
That's all right. Yeah, I think one of the first things I wanted to talk to you about was more your sort of like background coming into the sport, because I think most people obviously know you from your success in jiu-jitsu, but you've done a few different things over the years. So when you look all the way back, and obviously you had a decent career as a kid in judo as well, was there any reason that you didn't actually pursue it any further, or?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't very good. I wasn't going to be at like Olympic level, which was kind of like my goal as a child. I think I just wanted to go to the Olympics for anything. But yeah, I mostly did judo and I played a little bit of rugby. Back then, they didn't really have many female rugby teams, so judo became like the main thing. And yeah, there was a few reasons. Like I kind of, it's really hard to pinpoint it. In the moment, I might have put it down to just being like a teenage girl, and it's not very cool amongst the teenage girls or teenage boys to throw people around. So like that's one aspect for sure. But there were lots of factors. I think if it was like maybe a bit of a different environment, that might have kept me in it as well. But yeah, I was very, very shy. And I think not having like many friendships kind of really contributed to me kind of leaving the sport. Yeah.
So how did that change in terms of going into jiu-jitsu then? Did you find it easier to sort of like get along with people, that kind of thing?
Yeah, those older people. So I feel like I've always gotten on more with older people. I don't know why. Me and the Masters crew, we hang out a lot. I think they're just older, and then it was like this sort of I thought it just felt easier to talk to people in jiu-jitsu. I don't know why. I think there's a few things like in judo, the environment was all these people trying to go to the Olympics or like make the GB team and all this. It's very like everyone's against each other. Not every judo environment is like this, but in my experience, it kind of felt like everyone was against each other. And we're all very young as well, so like how do you navigate that? Whereas in jiu-jitsu, it was like, hey, come over here. It's like they're like the hippies of the martial arts world. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's just more chill and I don't know, it just felt more friendly.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that people do sort of like resonate with that when they do come from other martial arts is obviously jiu-jitsu is really informal compared to most other places, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And then obviously when you first started in jiu-jitsu, I know you used to do MMA as well. You had a couple of fights like semi-pro type thing. So
Yeah.
when you started out doing that, why did you sort of like call it a day really early, really? I mean, I think you were younger than 20, weren't you, when you stopped?
Yeah, I was 19 still. I think I did it in the course of a year. I started doing MMA fights very, very early, considering how little experience I had. But at the time, there was just not that many girls in it. I think I would have been murdered now if I went in with that skill level with the girls today. But yeah, like the idea was to kind of focus on jiu-jitsu for a while and like get all my skills built up. Because I was winning fights somehow despite being so crap. Can I swear? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Despite being so bad, I actually managed to win some fights. It looked like a drunken brawl, but I managed to come out on top with like an Americana a few times. Um, and yeah, it was just like, okay, I'm gonna focus on the jiu-jitsu. But then I realized that was the only bit of it I like loved. Um, so I don't like being punched back, and that's like a key thing. I don't know if anyone likes being punched back, but like a lot of people seem to like really be okay with it, and I don't want them to hit me. I like to hit them, but when they respond, I'm not into that. So I think just being honest with myself, I mean, like I love jiu-jitsu, like I could do this all day. Striking makes me want to cry, so I'm just gonna stick with the thing that I really like. So I just like stayed with that, and I never went back then.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes sense. It's something that I think you see a lot, especially with people that join MMA, maybe like when they're a little bit older, where they'll sort of have a little crack at it, and then when it doesn't quite pan out as well as they want, they'll stay with grappling because it's something you can do for decades. You know what I mean? Rather than just a sort of like really defined small peak of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people have been like, "Are you gonna go to MMA now?" And I'm like, "No, I'm 30. I'm not going to MMA now." I mean, like some people can. No offense to if anyone wants to do that, of course. But I'm like, no, I feel aged, even though I'm not old at all. But like in training years, I think it's then starting a more intense sport at 30, like more like it's like judo was really intense jiu-jitsu kind of gets less intense, and then going for like the most intense possible thing to do. I don't know if that's, I haven't got the passion in me for that. I know a lot of people do. I just don't have that in me. I just want to lay on the floor and wrestle.
To be fair, you're not wrong either. Like 30 is not exactly old, but it is like the clock's ticking. If you were to go to MMA, you'd have like what, like 3 or 4 years to really sort of like get all the way to the top, which is that's a lot of time pressure, isn't
Just
it?
to learn all that striking. Like I don't have any, even though I had MMA fights, I have no striking. Like it just kind of goes one ear out the other. I have no natural affinity for striking. So I know a lot of MMA fighters, and they win their UFC belts at like 40. During their late 30s is not uncommon at all. Especially because I think it takes so much skill building to get to that level to be the elite of the elite. But it's that thing. It's just a case of like, as soon as you think about how punches damage your brain, I think if you're thinking about that, probably not a good idea to do that sport, because that's what I'm thinking about. My brain. There's not much left.
No, it's fair enough. I mean, jiu-jitsu is definitely much less risk. Obviously, stuff can still go wrong, but not as sort of like life changing as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then obviously you've moved around quite a lot throughout your jiu-jitsu career. Obviously, you started down in Wales, went over to Ireland, and then now in the States, and now back to England again. So throughout that kind of like journey back and forth to all these different places, was there somewhere that you sort of felt that you gained the most sort of like skill development in like that space of time?
I mean, I think each place served me. Obviously, I think if you want to go from like 0 to 100, like Wales would have been like the biggest, doing nothing to being relative, not even good, I'll be honest, but it was okay. And I was really lucky to start in Chris Reed's Academy, like in CRA in Swansea. It's just such a random spot to have good jiu-jitsu, I think. And I started off with like good coaches there and good level people, which I think is really rare, especially in the UK, where there's not as much jiu-jitsu, or especially back then there wasn't as much jiu-jitsu. But I think, I don't know, each place served me in different ways. I felt like obviously I had my introduction to the sport, and I think I really learned how to learn and then how to teach also in Wales, because there were a lot of metaphors and I was like engaged for the first time learning anything probably. So I had like good instructors in Chris there. And then when I went to Ireland, it was like that's where I really developed my skill the most, I would say, because I had training partners who were closer to my size, and also just girls, lots of girls there as well for the first time. I was like, oh my God, I'm not the only girl on the mat, or one of like two on the mat. And there's like tons of girls there. And also I learned to guard in its entirety in Ireland. It was just really funny. Like I was a brown belt when I moved, and yeah, I didn't have a guard at all. So I like basically learned guard from a brown belt, which is hilarious to think of now. I just like, if I was on my back, it was done. I was toast. So that was probably my biggest skill development there. And then when I went to New York and I trained with JT, it was like that's where I feel like my mentality just got really good for competition, and not just that, but like being able to endure like really hard training. I've done lots of hard training in the past, but nothing was more intense than training at Essential in a competition class. Like that's no disrespect to anywhere else. It's just that it was so physically intense, sometimes to our detriment, maybe. But I went into ADCC after training there, and I was like, I don't think I can get tired. Like, and I didn't get tired, even though like my competitors were challenging. It was like I was just had too much cardio at that point, and I think that mentality and the way that JT thinks and the way that he sort of talked to us, like it made me think that's how I want to inspire, hopefully one day inspire like students as well. So I think each place served in its different way, and yeah, like I don't know, they were all equally important, I think.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Obviously, like different things are required at different times, and I think that's something that it happens a lot in jiu-jitsu where people these days more so than 10, 20 years ago will move around quite a lot. But it's because, like you said, different phases of your career, you need something different. And then obviously now you're going back to England and opening up ARMA BJJ. You're the head coach there. And how did that actually come about then? That sort of transition to like a more coaching role rather than teaching some classes kind of thing.
It was very much like I had in my head, if I win Worlds one time and ADCC, I'm done. I'm done. I'm getting out and I'm coaching because like coaching was like a secret passion I never expected. Like teaching, I love teaching. I do a lot of seminars. Like I'm trying to do it less now because of the gym opening and things. But I was doing a lot of seminars, and that was my way to fund myself without having to open an academy. I think for a lot of people, you kind of have to either like run the kids program or run the gym or open your own gym to be able to fund your athlete lifestyle, unless you are super sick and you're immediately getting like loads of sponsors. But I was just like doing seminars for like 500 quid back in the day. And it was just like, or sometimes per head. And I'd sometimes walk away with like 200 quid and just be like, all right, that's food for this month. But like I learned that I really love teaching. And I think it was really important to me, like wanting people to learn well, because I'd always struggled with learning. Like in school, I was terrible. Probably undiagnosed ADHD that no one was kind of recognizing there. Whenever I say this to people, they're like, okay. Like I didn't know what was going on. And I thought, oh, does everyone actually know what's happening? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh. I don't know what's going on. I couldn't focus at all. And so I feel like I had Chris, and he was teaching me when I first started jiu-jitsu, and also Ash as well. And just found it really engaging. Also the sport's really engaging as well, even though it's so similar to judo. It's not, in the sense that even if you mess up, you can kind of find your way there. You can be more creative because there's way less rules. It's not as restrictive. Like you can be creative in your route to achieving the same goal as long as you understand the concept. So that really stuck with me. And then I wanted to be a good teacher for others, and not claiming I'm a good teacher. I try my best to to explain things, and I'm improving, I hope, and I hope to improve more once the gym is open as well, because I'll be in regular practice. And I'm very used to teaching seminars, but not consistent classes. So that's like a new challenge for me. And yeah, I just wanted people to not feel stupid, because I feel like a lot of jiu-jitsu is often like hyper intellectualized. That's a big word for me. But it is. It's like they talk about it like it's super scientific, and that is great if that's what you're into and that works for you. But I have zoned out within 20 seconds, unfortunately. Whereas if someone's there and they're making a few jokes and they're being a bit more light-hearted with it, and they're trying to make me understand, like how you would teach a child, I think that's more universally understanding for everyone. And I don't think that jiu-jitsu is only for smart people, like whatever your definition of intelligent is. I don't think it is, because I am proof it's not. And look at any of the top athletes, actually, and listen to their views for 2 minutes, and I think you'll recognize it's the case. But yeah, I just feel like it's for everyone, and I feel like it should feel that way. And yeah, I think different things work for everyone, and that's great. But I don't know. I think a lot of people sometimes feel like this is such a complicated thing. And I'm like, it's really not that complicated when we actually break it down. And my priority is not to sound smarter than you, but to actually have you understand what I'm trying to teach you. That was a really long waffle. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I mean, it makes perfect sense as well, because I think for a lot of people in, like you said, in like education and stuff, people do just switch off. Like, it's fairly common. Like, obviously, some people succeed, some people do amazing, and that's brilliant. But a lot of people in like combat sports or in any sort of sport area, I think they resonate with that experience where the mainstream sort of like school education system didn't really like grab their attention. And yeah, I think that's like a noble effort as well. And one thing I wanted to sort of like mention to you, because if you don't mind me saying, I think it's uncommon or less common to see a woman taking on the role of like head coach rather than having like a woman's program under their leadership kind of thing. So is that something that you sort of like would prefer to do, as opposed to just taking like I said, like the women's competition class or something like that? Would you rather take whole control of the whole thing? You know what I mean?
It's not that I want control of everything. Like I'm actually going to be teaching alongside a ton of amazing coaches. Sam also, he's also going to be like one of the head coaches as well. Like it's not just me, it's me and him as well. And it's not that I want control. Let's turn it into a matriarchy. It's not so much that, but I think it's important if you have a female instructor that they also teach co-ed, and whether that's even once a week. I think women only classes are amazing in that they bring in new women to the sport. I used to be very against them because I was like, I just want people to treat me the same, but we're not the same. there's it's not equality, it's equity. And a lot of girls who've not been introduced to the sport, who growing up, just like I was, but I was fortunate enough that I have parents that were just like, we're putting you into the sport because you like it, and that's as deep as it goes for them. But a lot of girls are heavily discouraged against doing combat sports or anything that's viewed as masculine. So we're missing out on this big crop of women who never started the sport. But having a women having a women's only program is way more accessible for them, and they might never have started if not for it. Like, yeah, I was used to being in an environment in a big sausage fest where the guys are just like, girls suck, and I'm like, haha, yeah. But like most girls would not be used to that and wouldn't tolerate that, which is a good thing. There's things that when I was young I should never have tolerated, but I didn't, understand at the time. But like getting those girls into the sport is really important. So I think if I'm teaching a women's only class, I should also be teaching co-ed, like mixed classes, be just to sort of be like, look, yes, there is an importance of bringing these new girls into the sport, but at the same time, I'm just the same as the other coaches, right? Like when I'm teaching you, it's not about my gender. I'm going to have a different perspective, which I think is beneficial. Like I have the perspective of being smaller, weaker than a lot of my opponents, or like in the gym and having to adapt to that. That can only be a good thing, like having that experience. And yeah, I feel like it's good to be able to, I don't know, not to be like, okay, women and children, you teach them. It's like, no, like I have knowledge that can hopefully serve everyone. So I feel like just keeping them to women only is detrimental for everyone, because it's such a good perspective to have. Like we always talk about how, oh, the smaller guy is the best person to learn off in the gym. And that's not me saying I'm better than anyone in that regard, but it's a different perspective. Even if I can't necessarily beat the shit out of people, Jareen, I'm not going to be able to dominate everyone on mat because there is limits, right? But at the same time, if you apply the skills that I have to someone bigger and stronger, it's going to work even better. So why not ask or learn off that person?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right as well that it is a really common sort of thing. Like people will say, like lighter men's divisions are more technical, or the lighter coaches are more well-rounded, or whatever. Like it is a really common thing that you'll hear from people, and like you said, the same logically applies to women's divisions as well, where other than the heavyweight divisions, obviously most women's divisions are even lighter than the lightest men. You know what I mean?
And
So
also, we've got our vaginas we got to carry around, and that's really, really hard carrying those around. Sorry.
and
I realised
sorry.
the painting on the wall behind me as well. I'm so sorry. Just don't look at that.
Oh, I didn't even notice that, to be fair.
Oh, I don't know if you can. Can you see what's happening? No, don't worry.
Yeah, just about.
Okay. It was a brothel. It's not anymore. I'm not in a brothel.
And on about the whole sort of like coaching aspect of it, and taking your skills over to ARMA and sort of like spreading the competition class there. Is that something that you've got in mind now? If you sort of like look to the future, like building like an actual competition team out of pretty much out of nothing, really?
Yeah, definitely. It is like definitely a line you've got to walk where it's like, I want people to come, but you don't want to be like, hey, you come here. And it doesn't want to come across because it's a brand new gym and we're all from different places, which is really cool. There is that thing of like, you kind of just like let people come to you. But that is something I would love to do, is to lead a competition class. And my intention would be to lead that class. And yes, I would take part in it sometimes, but me and Sam are also going to be running that together. So he'll teach one day, I teach the next. So I'll get to take part in it. But on the days that I'm coaching, I'm just going to be coaching, because like from as an athlete, having someone on the outside to watch your rounds and be able to in the moment coach you through it and then immediately after correct is so beneficial. Like I've been training at Los Bandidos a lot in London, and Joe is there, he's the coach there, and God, the difference of just having someone on the side and going, hey, like try this next time. It's so simple. Like you don't have to be some mastermind, even though Joe is brilliant. Like you don't have to be this mastermind. Literally just someone like correcting you and pointing something out, like, have you noticed you're doing that? It's going to save you months of time. So that I think as much as I'm like, I want to like train and blah blah blah, there's so many other classes I can train in. I want to make sure that and like there will be competition classes where I will be hopping in, but for the benefit of the people in the room. So I really do want to build, a really strong competition team. Obviously I want a strong like women's team. Letitia Ribeiro is like an idol of mine, and she had that like big crop of girls at Gracie United. That would be a goal, or like an Atos style girls team. That would be really, AOJ. There's so many teams that you can kind of build, kind of look to and aspire to be like. I would love for something like that to be built in the UK. Obviously, I also want to like coach the guys too. It's not like, hey, screw you. But I think just having a female coach, it's unique. It is different, because it's few and far between. And yeah, I think it'd be really cool.
Nice. Nice. And then obviously you mentioned recently that you're sort of taking a bit of a break from competing at the moment, to sort of like focus on that opening and building the actual team up at the first sort of like initial period. Can you speak a little bit more about that and why it is you decided to sort of like step away from the competitive side of things a little bit?
It's not so much that I like stepped away from competing. I think it was a little bit like misunderstood. It was like, I've quit. It's like, no, I've not quit. I'm just being honest about my mentality around it, that I don't think it's good or healthy, that I'm worried about what people will say, whether I win or lose. I'm not afraid to lose. Like, genuinely, I've lost many times. I don't find it embarrassing. As a lot of people on the internet will think it's very embarrassing to try something and fail. I don't. I think it's really admirable. So it's not a problem with that. It's more that, like, even I've learned now, even if I win, people will have bad things to say. And like, maybe I didn't win in an exciting enough way, or I don't know, I pulled this face at this moment, so then they're thinking this. And it's a really weird way to live. And I'm trying to like, and I do most of the time do a good job, I think, of, well, maybe not a good job, but a better job at like not letting that factor into things. But I really hate that that's what that's become. So that's something that I am trying to work through for sure, because I don't want to be feeling that way going into a tournament, especially when everything else is going so well, or like feeling that way into competition. I also am in like a unique position now with, and which is like kind of the dream, I think, that I achieved the things I wanted to achieve. Like, I got my world championships, I got ADCC gold. I've achieved those things that I always set out to do, and now I've signed a UFC contract, and I get to compete with a big organization, and I get paid well. Like, it's not all about money, but for love of God, I'm a female athlete. We don't get much money. Like, not in jiu-jitsu in general, you don't get much money, but there is, for my generation and for me, there is a cap on what I can make. And I think a lot of people were criticizing the decision to sign without any knowledge. When I signed, I didn't know there was going to be a women's division at CGI. I was told there wasn't going to be one. So of course I'm going to go, well, here I can fight. Do you mean? Like, obviously I could have hung around and like kind of seen, they were saying they were going to, try, but there's no guarantees, and the months are ticking by. And so it just made more sense to fight with an organization where I can fight kind of every few months, and I can focus on the gym, and everything kind of tied together really well. And it's something that I was really excited about. And yeah. Yeah, I kind of got ruined, but no, I am trying to like see that it's a positive thing, and like push that stuff aside and just focus on the fact that like I can focus on the gym, I can hopefully be a good coach, and then I can fight on a big show and fight top people. And yeah, like, it doesn't mean I won't do tournaments anymore. I really want to make sure I'm still doing tournaments as well in the future and stuff. But it's just that thing of like, I get to have bigger gaps in between. And right now, obviously, I injured my ankle, so I've not trained. I still haven't trained yet since, jiu-jitsu. I'm not able to. I've fully like the inside of my ankle. So, and I was like, it's just an ankle. Like, no, it really, like, it's bust. It's still swollen. And it's like I can have that little break now and focus on the gym, and then yeah, like towards the end of the year I will compete, but it's just not gonna be as frequently, because I did for years the competing every weekend, and I loved it, but it's just a different season of life. And it's often to say that I won't go back to competing a lot more regularly, but I think it has to ebb and flow to maintain the passion. And I can't, sometimes I'll see people and like, oh, they're competing all the time, and I'll compare myself to them, but it's like, but I've been in this sport for 12 years, competing a black belt for 6, almost 7 now. So you have to kind of make sure you're not burning yourself out, and that's what I'm just trying to be mindful of. And also not clinging too hard to competing forever, because I think it's really gone on ramble, sorry. But like coming in from a judo background, it was very much like I thought I'm gonna be kind of finishing my, if I'd stuck with judo, my sporting career around 27, 28. And that's not to say you can't go on further. But, for Olympic athletes, that's kind of how it pans out. But I also started jiu-jitsu later. And I think I'll always compete, because I think if you are an instructor or you're a coach at a gym, competing is to inspire your students. But that would be the purpose of that. It wouldn't be for my own ego. It would be, although it does stroke the ego when you win, doesn't it? Still nice to win, isn't it? But it would be more like, okay, I'm going to put myself out there, because I can't complain that no one's competing if I'm not competing. So that would be like the goal, to be like, come on, guys, come on. Let's all go to Euros, and then we can have pastels and that. So I'm just thinking of like, because I'm in Lisbon. But yeah, that was really long. I'm sorry. Good luck with that. Remembering what I said.
No, it's a good explanation, because I think it's something that anyone following jiu-jitsu over the last couple of years has got to notice, that the sport's obviously grown massively and there's loads more attention. But then with the benefits of that, because obviously fighter pay's gone up, whether it's gone up enough is another conversation, but it's gone up. And then the number of opportunities have gone up. But obviously with more attention comes things like you said, like more criticism for things that not necessarily even in your control a lot of the time as well. Where athletes that are at the highest level of the sport and get the most sort of like attention are going to get the most heat as well, which is difficult to deal with. I think one of the more interesting things I saw about it is like jiu-jitsu is in a weird spot where athletes are kind of famous enough that there's hundreds of thousands of people watching them on a regular basis, but then not famous enough that they can totally detach from that world. Whereas like, your NBA players, they just literally don't even live in the real world anymore. So what someone says about them has no effect. Whereas jiu-jitsu athletes are still very much just average people, effectively. Do you know what I mean?
I don't make enough money for you to make fun of me at this level. If I was like a billionaire, or even a million, no, or even what's less than that? What's like a poorer version? Sorry, I'm getting texts coming through. What's like if I even made like relatively decent money, like sorry, I'm happy with my place financially. I can afford my rent, and I can afford jiu-jitsu. Happy days. That's all I ever wanted. But I do want to be able to put some money away in savings to one day own a home, and to do basic things like that. Like, yes, I do want to do that. So I will go towards things that were going to pay me more. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, it is that thing of like, I'm not beyond criticism. That's not the thing at all. And I definitely put my foot in my mouth a lot, unfortunately, because I can't shut the fuck up. It's like an issue. But I feel like if I'm being criticized for things that are like, can we have a bit of equality in the sport? And then people are like, shut up, bitch. Die in my comments, or like in my DMs. I feel like that's an overreaction a little bit. That's a little bit dramatic, isn't it? And yeah, I feel like so many things have been misconstrued. People are saying like, oh, I want the same as like the top men. I've never said that. I've said, could I have a little bit more than what I'm getting, because I know it's worth more than what I'm currently getting. Or like, could we have a division, or could we have some more pay? And yeah, it's never been like I wanted the same as top men. I just wanted what's my worth, because I do like, I can only speak for myself, but there's lots of girls as well who they have good following. They have like, I hate saying this, but like fans, they have that, but they'll just be told, no, we can't pay you that because not enough people watch it. But it's like, show me that no one's watching it. Like, show me proof. Because I've talked to, there's an organization I shan't name because I don't want to drop them in anything, but they told me I'm one of the highest viewed. So you can't then tell me that I shouldn't get paid. It's really not them, like they're great, but it doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, I don't know. There's lots of things you can criticize me for. Absolutely, go for it. But I don't know. I always find it like funny, and yeah, I'm not equipped. I'm just have to use social media because obviously you need to promote things for to get on shows, to get sponsors, to make it worthwhile for them, you need to post and you need to be engaged with that stuff. But it's really wild. Like the whole thing is bananas, like the way that people talk online. And I think it's just like an issue for everyone. I see it in other people's comment sections, and that also upsets me. And I think I am very sensitive as well. I think some people are so good at just drowning that out. But I just like, I find it like the injustice, not even on my own behalf, but like on friends. I'll see comments and I'm like, why would you say that to someone? I like, did we remember the thing of like, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all? They wish you taught that. That's what my parents taught me. I don't know. I'll see something, and then you have to think like a healthy person. Not that I'm particularly mentally healthy, but I know a lot of I put a post then saying about how I was feeling, and the amount of kind comments, and they were all people who don't normally comment because they have lives, and they focus on their own lives, and then they took the effort to make a comment, and it was really kind. But the people who were leaving negative comments, they'd have like I've never felt the desire to leave a hate comment on a post. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I've gone on a ramble now, but I think it's just not understanding the thought process behind it is what baffles me, maybe. Like I can't relate to it, so I just find it maybe more difficult to deal with.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because, like you said, the people that are sort of some of the most successful in the sport, more often than not, they're kind of busy actually being that rather than taking it out on other people, kind of thing. And then yeah, obviously you've, like you said, not so much stopped competing. Obviously, you've still got plans to return. One thing I thought was interesting is you mentioned the two IBJJF world titles, and I know you've said before that having a second title didn't really do a whole lot for your sort of like standing in the sport or your like ability to get opportunities and that sort of thing. So with that in mind, then do you think you'll ever come back to ADCC in the future as well, or no?
Yeah, yeah, I'll be in trials. Yeah, like look, I I feel like that didn't mean anything to anyone else. I don't think winning IBJJF Worlds made like the second time made any difference for anyone else, but it made all the difference to me, and that's all that matters to an extent. And then it's like, well, I was fortunate that I was getting seminars before that. Like even before I won Worlds the first time, I was able to get seminars off of like good performances and just being someone that people wanted to watch and being on certain shows. And I had a moment at ADCC where I had like a good win, and that brought a lot of eyes. And then there was a lot of people who already assumed that I had won Worlds, and I hadn't won Worlds yet. But there was like the assumption. There's like a lot of athletes that I really admire, and I'm like, oh, this person must have won. Actually, they'd never won Worlds, and I was like, oh. But those world titles mean everything to me. Like my two key world titles, particularly the second time, are my favorite moments I've ever had, and I didn't get that much traction off them. But like that's okay because it was very personal to me, and I knew that going forward. Even though IBJJF, I love IBJJF, and I love competing in the gi, because I think everything was moving towards no gi, and I think yeah, it was like everything was moving towards no gi, and people are more focused on that, and people be like nobody cares. It's like I care. I care. But yeah, like with ADCC, I'd absolutely do it again. I had my criticisms for it, and I succeeded in what I wanted. Like sometimes you have to kind of I feel like with the CGI situation, it was brilliant because it was two champions. It kind of had to be that because you're not sacrificing anything then, right? Like if you're wanting to win it, you can't ask that person to withdraw because otherwise they're giving up their space in the ADCC potentially forever. And I was doing with the thing of like I may never be allowed to do this again if I withdraw now with all the controversy surrounding it. Then me and Mackenzie withdrew, and then the next day they put the prize money up for the women as almost like a haha fuck you, but it's like that's what we wanted, and it's a win-win, and it's a thing of like I would do ADCC again for sure because I love competing and I love fighting the top people. Nothing to do with the organization per se. It's a great platform to compete on, and yeah, I would do it again, for sure. But for me, if that makes sense, it's because I love competing. And yeah, like I would be doing trials because usually if you've been a champion, you'll be invited back. But that might, if I because I forfeited my spot, that might mean I don't know what that means, but I'm going to assume that I'm gonna have to fight my way in there just like anybody else, you know. I'm not going to expect an invite, and I would fight my way in that. Like, depending on what's happening next year, whether I do it or not, that all depends. Maybe the gym will be really busy and I'll be really focused on coaching, and that's the route I want to go. I can't say right now because it's quite far away. It's not until next year that the trials would be, but I'm never saying never to anything, and I'm not going to be those people like, give me an invite. I'm going to just go and do the trial and just see if I can't win a trial, then I don't really want to be there anyway, because because I'd want to win, and if I can't win the trials, it's unlikely I'd be able to win. Well, maybe unless they won, but I'd assume it would be quite difficult for me to win if that was the case. So, yes, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, realistically, like you said, having forfeited your spot, it doesn't. There's no real like precedent for that kind of thing. Whereas, like you said, normally champions are welcome back anytime, pretty much. Whereas, yeah, after giving that up, you don't know if it's a guaranteed thing anymore. And you mentioned obviously the gi actually enjoying like competing in it for its own sake as well. But you haven't done a whole lot of gi recently, obviously because of that's where the money is, I imagine. And are you ever thinking about going back and doing like gi worlds again, or?
Yeah, I mean, I love the gi. I prefer the gi way more, quite significantly more. But it was an accident that I turned into this no gi monster. Uh, not monster as in good. I mean, as in lycra wearing. Ugh. Um, no hate to the nogi people, but I am one of you now. But it was an accident. It was just that I got invited to do an event. It was nogi. I was like, oh, but that's the same time as pans, for example. Okay, well, I'm going to do the event that pays me, obviously. And then that kept happening. Kind of, there'd be a no gi event right next to it, or at the same time as a gi event, and it just happened like that. And then it came around to gi world, and I was like, I've done no gi, like all this year. I go into the tournament, like I go into gi worlds to win. That's my goal. And I was like, you know what, this year, and it was ADCC year that this happened. But yeah, it was. And I was like, you know what, this year I'm going to focus on ADCC. A lot of people end up doing that. That's okay. Next year I'll go back to the gi, and it's just kind of not worked out like that. I've been just, then I got the UFC contract, and all these things sort of came around. But my goal would be to do gi worlds. Yeah, I'd love to. It's just I didn't do it this year because I was allowed to do it this year, but I couldn't because my fight ended up being the Thursday before gi worlds. But yeah, like I definitely want to do it again. I prefer the gi. I love the gi. Gi is life. Um, but yeah, you get paid more no gi. It's unfortunate. I think it will come back around again. I think once once IBJJF starts paying on the podium, and then they're doing things like the crown that pays money, but you kind of have to like medal at a major or win a major to be invited to the crown. So that's kind of like the entryway. But I do think that they were talking about it before COVID, like paying on the podium. And I think that'd be a really great step to enticing people back. Not that it's like the gi isn't lacking, there's still tons of people doing it. Um, but yeah, I think that once they start paying on the podium, I think a lot of people will flock back to it once it becomes a bit more easy to follow. I think for the gi, it would be less so focus on shows, because people have this like misguided idea that's not as exciting. I really just don't believe that's true. I love watching gi world. It's my favorite event to watch. I find it really exciting. I just love jiu-jitsu. Trina, I don't. Some people just want to watch men rub against each other in lycra, I think, and they don't actually like jiu-jitsu all that much. So, and that's okay. I'm an ally. That's okay. But but yeah, like gi worlds is super exciting. So I don't know where that's come from. I think people who couldn't do the gi got angry, so they just started to spread a rumor that it was really boring. That's my theory. But I will be back. All that to say, I will be back.
Nice, nice. No, I'll definitely look forward to seeing it as well because, like you said, you've sort of had that like dominant run, and then just by chance you haven't been competing in the gi. So I always think that's when that tends to happen, because it's happened to a few people where they've sort of steered one direction over the other for like a year or two. There's usually
Mhm.
quite a lot of like attention then when they do step back in the gi, or vice versa. And then the last thing I really wanted to talk to you about was your sort of like it was your most recent match against Adele. Obviously you won, and you said pretty much straight away that you wanted a rematch anyway, just to sort of try and get a more decisive victory next time around. And with that in mind, is there anyone else that you're sort of like looking to face soon, like on your next UFC match whenever that comes around?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't like winning by small margins. I don't like winning by decision. But it's part of it. It happens when there's two people who are very like well matched. That happens. Do you mean? I think it was very hard on myself because uh it like obviously I want to submit people. Like that's always the goal, or at least like control positioning. I've always been like that, like competitive with myself. So it was one of those weird things. I was like, I can't really enjoy this because it's not what I set out to do. But yeah, like obviously a rematch would be cool, but whoever, Dream, and it's kind of something I'm not really thinking about until like the end of the year anyway, because I want to give myself grace and give myself that time to actually focus on the gym and yeah, and recover and kind of, I don't know, just feel a bit more, have a bit of a healthier mindset with things. So I think that'll be my focus right now. And whoever they want me to fight, I'll fight. Hopefully for a belt. That'd be nice. And like a little UFC title. That'd be really cool. Although I hope they get nicer belts. Sorry. Sorry, I didn't like the belt. But I want one anyway, Dream, but a cooler one. Maybe like a golden one. A pretty one. Sorry. But yeah, like hopefully I think at the end of the year, like fight for like a UFC title, whoever it's against. I would like 135 pounds. I don't want to do 125 again. That's the thing. Because I like food and I have to diet to do 125. And I don't want to diet anymore because it sucks the joy of it. So whoever, I don't know, I don't really like have something like this, but whoever's doing well, I will fight them. That's kind of it. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Well, that's pretty much all we got time for at the moment. Is there anything else that you want to say or anyone you want to give a shout out to or anything like that before I let you go?
Oh, shout out to Progress. I'm not wearing them. I'm sorry. I'm on holiday and I didn't bring anything that's Progress except for a rash guard that I haven't used. But shout out to Progress, they're my sponsor, and shout out to my parents. They made me for better or worse. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No worries. Well, thanks so much for your time today and take it easy. All right. Cheers.
Thank you.